Welcome once again to another episode where we get to meet and know the stories of our scientists, women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Today we have with us a distinguished professor from the Department of Pharmacology, and she'll be introducing herself to us. Hello, Prof.
Hello.
Good to have you.
Good to meet you too.
Okay. I know you are thriving and you are doing very well in science, and it's a very great motivation to the young ones. Can you tell us what you do? What are your roles at the moment?
Right. Thank you very much for the question. I'm an associate professor in pharmacology and the head of the Department of Pharmacology, Faculty of Pharmacy, KNUST. I lecture in pharmacology to pharmacy students, medical students, nursing, midwifery, med lab, veterinary, and herbal medicine students because they all do pharmacology in the College of Health Sciences. And so I teach them. And then I also have postgraduate students, masters and PhD students doing pharmacology, and I supervise their research and they form my research team. And then I also carry out all other administrative duties as assigned to me in the university. Thank you.
Yeah, that's such an interesting life. Can you again tell us your background? How did you get here?
Right. For my basic education, I had it at Mauli Primary School in the Volta region. My mother was working as the domestic bazaar at Mauli School then. And then I continued my secondary education at Akusumu International School in the Eastern region because my dad was working at Volta River Authority. And so I went to Akusumu International School. And then afterwards, I went to Wesley Girls High School for my sixth form. And from there, came to KNUST to pursue a Bachelor of Pharmacy degree. And then afterwards, registered as a pharmacist. I decided to have my family or start my family first after marrying. And I had 2 kids, but I always knew I wanted to be in academia. And so I came back around 2006 to do my master's and finished in 2008. And then in 2009, I was appointed as a lecturer, the first female lecturer in the Department of Pharmacology. Yes, so after working for 3 to 4 years, I qualified for study leave. And then I went to the School of Pharmacy, University College London in the United Kingdom to do my PhD, which I finished and came back in 2016 to continue with my work. Yes.
Interesting. Prof, if you have Jodeho.
Ojim la kosumu akeme no ho me de sukule ho ta me sebe be chenyu de.
Okay, can travel jonajino. Na pomagba nka ona wona na devima.
Oh, those times enonye menanu cake, biscuit, plato ta me kpede because me no campus, no vio no overflow ice cream and cakes, toffees and all that. Me jana no mafete ta. I had the opportunity to interact with a lot of girls, and then weekends, makpere no nyangu wajran and
Magwena no devima anya from that time but you're gonna scientist nyaga. Hello, at what point na decide by pharmacy? When did you make that decision?
Okay. I would say that, once you are good in school, I was always first in class. Everybody would say, oh, you'll be a doctor, you'll be a doctor. And so after primary school, I pursued science because generally I was good all around. Yes. And so I think after A levels, I applied to tech to do medicine. Actually, we were the last batch of the A level, and there was a double intake that year, 95, 96 group. And so the numbers were huge. So I was offered pharmacy. Then I didn't know what pharmacy was all about, apart from probably just picking my drugs at the hospital dispensary. Yes, but talking to my parents, they said, oh, it was okay, so I should just go ahead and pursue it. I could have waited another year to apply again, but I just took the opportunity and made the best out of it. Yes.
Okay. So the challenge is that most young girls don't know what a scientist does. We are familiar with doctors, pharmacists in dispensary, but we don't have an idea of the role of a scientist. So tell us, what do you do as a scientist? What problems do you solve?
Right. So, as a scientist, my research area of interest is in antimicrobial resistance. So, putting it simply, um, the drugs that are supposed to help us with various infections are not working as they should because they are not being able to kill the bacteria. And it's probably because of our misuse and abuse and all that, in addition to some bacteria resistant factors. And so we want to find new drugs because resistance is on the high, but new antibiotics coming up are very few. And so we need to find more antibiotics working by different mechanisms in order to tackle the resistance problem. So we find compounds from natural sources. And my focus is on plants because, we have abundance of that. And traditionally, our parents and grandparents use these herbs and spices to treat various infections. When you have a cough, they will ask you to chew garlic, ginger, and so these are things traditionally they use in healing many diseases. And so we are as scientists trying to validate the traditional use and also find compounds from the plants that can be further developed as new drugs. So that is what we are doing to tackle antimicrobial resistance, especially for me in tuberculosis.
Okay. I know that you are well celebrated, especially because of your award, that is the Africa Oxford Research Development Grant. Tell me how the feeling was like when you were announced the winner of the grant, and what are some of your successes and failures during your journey over the years?
Well, I mean, any award or recognition that comes my way, I think usually the first thing I do is to go on my knees and just thank God uh, for His grace and His mercies, and then now face the work. So there has been a lot of recognition and awards. I think in 2022, the International Women's Day, I was recognized for my contribution to socioeconomic development of Ghana. It was the seventh Ghana Women's Excellence Award. So my contribution in tertiary education and research. And then 2023, the Maiden KNUST's Vice Chancellor's Award for Creativity and Innovation. I was also the overall winner. And the Africa Oxford Research Development Award was a grant in 2020. And that was to help me set up my lab for research in KNUST. After going out there to do your PhD, learning so many different skills and knowledge, when you come home, you should be able to continue the work as a scientist. And we are mostly limited by resources in terms of equipment, consumables, and others. So applied for this grant to be able to purchase equipment and others to set up the lab to be able to train more postgraduate students. Yes.
Okay. Interesting. So I also want to know how important is it for women's voices to be heard in science? Because we are trying to celebrate women in science, women and girls in science.
I think it's important, and times like these, I think as we speak and other young girls also listen to our stories, they will be motivated to pick up courses in STEM and also know that there are people they will look up to. And I think that is even enough to change somebody's story. And so it's important that the voices of women in science are heard. Secondly, there are a lot of challenges that we face as women in the, let me say, male-dominated area that we find ourselves. It's getting better, but we are not there yet. And so if our young girls know that others have been able to succeed irrespective of the challenges, then they will take up the challenge as well.
So that follows right into my next questions. Obviously, there are challenges for women. How are you able to balance your work and then your responsibilities at home?
Okay, so I must confess, it was very challenging, especially when the children were very young. Well, for me, the first 5 years of my working life, I used most of that to take care of my children. I had two children. Then just when I started my master's, I had a third one. So I used that time to bring them up a bit. And then now balancing the day-to-day activities, I think it requires a lot of planning because you are wearing so many hats. You are a wife, mother, professional woman, researcher, scientist, and all that. So I think you just need to plan well and find time to do everything, including finding time to rest in between as well. Yes.
So it's really stressful but doable.
It's
because
doable.
we have women do it.
It's
well.
doable, and
Yes.
every season comes with its challenges, but it can be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you do for fun to unwind after
Well,
a hard day?
I like baking, I like cooking, and then also listening to a lot of music. Yes, and I don't find time to read novels as I used to and hope to, but yes, at least I try to unwind and block a bit of time. Maybe Sunday afternoon, I try to stay indoors just to rest before the week starts. Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to young girls, especially because you shared that you had some challenges along the way and then some successes? What kind of advice would you give to a young girl in terms of inspiration?
I'd say that they can do it. As Nelson Mandela said, it is impossible until it is done. You can do it. Most importantly is to stay focused. Know that everybody's journey is different. So you have to stay focused on yours and keep going no matter what. But it's possible.
Okay. Yes.
Watanwe ndesi ada obe yo wala no nyako susu ni kode yoche watanwe. These days social media and others hona time akenendele ejebe na we na we nwide
Kamia dadaudi.
Maglobe no na nyonuvio no was science egon ready. Ndesi ademi wala femedi science ye ne EGV exclusive breastfeeding science ye nele nu dana view nutrition science ye wellness exercise opete science ye tandesi ade wala feme na enye science students better na we na plan nyide tade no na nyonuvio no yi school no was science omega no be o esen no don't you de dao nyonuvio che watanwe.
Okay, everybody be a opportunity only na nyonvio.
Opportunity so how leza na nyonuvio egon be mi promote nyonuvio ha ta opportunities lay for mentoring no na nyonuvio
ta mentoring vie konya na fun
ele very important ne amedela siwe he into akpobe ewe alo etanwe atan igbo adoje dede kra na me ele owe plito ekpe na me untala ele very important
akpenu bonava
agba mi strong
gede mana yo
naira ha akpe